Is this right-wing Marxism at play here? No, it's not. But it's what I'm hearing from a lot of people that I agree with in my space, that we have a like-mindedness. But I'm hearing a lot of folks insist that when you hear the following clips from Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, on Tucker Carlson's show, and I will play it for you here in a second, this is nothing but right-wing socialism and right-wing Marxism that is being attempted right now as we hit the 9 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio. The markets are once again off in a big way this morning, continuing the losses from last week. Dow is off 1,000 points, S&P off 100, NASDAQ is off 243. They're all off basically about 2.5%. That's not what's going on here. I'll play the Scott Bessent clip, and I'll explain to you why this is not like Bernie Sanders socialism from the right side of the political aisle.
The good news is we have President Trump's previous term when everyone said none of this was going to work. Oh, the China tariffs are going to do this. They're going to cause inflation. They didn't. This is going to happen to working class. It's going to be bad for working class Americans. Well, guess what? Working class Americans, the hourly workers did better than supervisory workers. The bottom 50% of households, their net worth increased faster than the top 10% of households. And look, I'm not happy with what's going on in the market today, but the distribution of equities across households, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equities. 88% of the stock market. The next 40% owns 12% of the stock market. The bottom 50 has debt. They have credit card bills. They rent their homes. They have auto loans, and we've got to give them some relief. That I was struck by the statistic from last year.
That's the message right there. Just as a bystander, I'm like, wow, okay.
Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, with Tucker Carlson on his show late last week. And some people heard that. Some people who I would say are like-minded to me heard that and said, oh, this is just a populist Republican version of Marxism and socialism. And the answer is no, it's not. That's nonsense. Acknowledging a reality is a good place to start. Understanding why there is arguably class warfare going on in this country for the first time in a century is a good thing to acknowledge. Then the question becomes, what do you do about it? See, Bernie Sanders would say, well, Elon Musk should be giving his Tesla stock to poor people. That's not what Scott Bessent is saying. Scott Bessent is saying, how do we create a world where the middle class can invest in the stock market and can see the gains of the stock market, just like the top 10% have experienced? Instead, what we've seen is a concentration of stock market wealth that has only grown the gap between haves and have-nots in this country over the last several years. You have 10% of this country that owns 88% of the stocks. That is not sustainable to grow a strong and robust middle class, which is what Donald Trump was elected on, because Joe Biden's policies killed the middle class. Their wages did not keep up with inflation. They did not have the investments in the markets to see the gains of the last few years to make up for the fact that their wages were not keeping up with inflation. And that's the reason that, well, not the reason, but one of the reasons that Kamala Harris lost. She was also a horrible candidate. It's a reason that Democrats have been wiped out in the House and the Senate and the White House the last couple of elections. This is not about redistributing anything. It's about creating an economy that allows more people to go to their Charles Schwab account, their Fidelity account, their Vanguard account, and invest in the markets, which is a great way to create wealth and live the American dream. That's the goal here. Will it work? I'm hoping like heck it will, and I'm backing the people who are doing it, hoping that it will, and believing that, you know what, they've been right a lot more than they've been wrong going back to 2017. So I'm going to ride with them here on this. But don't call this right-wing Marxism. That's not true. There's no redistribution that's at play here. That's not the goal here at all by any stretch. I mean, you know, I have heard stories. I don't remember it, obviously, but, you know, my father would tell me stories about my grandfather buying stocks, you know, calling up to check on the stock ticker back in the 1960s. And he was a fireman in New York City. He was a middle class as middle class gets. But he could invest in the stock market. He could buy some stocks. He could find some money and scratch it together and, you know, try to live that American dream. And he was interested in doing that. That is harder than ever today to do that. People can't buy homes, which is a big part of the American dream. They've been priced out of the housing market. They've been priced out of the stock market. Their wages have not kept up with the cost of living, with inflation. And that's the reset button that the administration is trying to hit right now. And yes, there is risk associated with this. There is no doubt about it. There is risk associated with this. But you tell me what the better option is. Whistling past the graveyard and doing the same old thing that has failed that middle class, the middle class that came running to the Republican Party in a way that it hasn't in 75 years, with a diverse coalition of voters in the middle class who said, you know what, we're going to give this party a shot. We're going to give this guy, Donald Trump, a shot, despite the fact that, largely speaking, folks of our socioeconomic level have been voting for Democrats for decades now. We're going to give this guy a shot. They put their trust in him, and he's making a run at it. And yes, the Wall Street class is freaking out. And the biggest risk right now is not that stocks go down. The biggest risk, of course, is that the jobs market gets impacted here. But that's not happening tomorrow or next week or even next month. Don't forget, the jobs numbers came out on Friday and it got lost in the conversation around the stock market going down. But the jobs numbers came out and actually blew out the expectations. The expectations on Friday were for about 144,000 jobs. We got 240,000, and it was not driven by government for the first time in 4 years. The government, which was a top 3 employer every single month under Joe Biden, actually lost jobs in March. The federal job, or the government jobs, not just federal, the government jobs went down in March. And the jobs numbers came in at nearly double the expectations. That's the real economy. That's the regular economy. That's the economy that Donald Trump was voted in to restore and to grow, not the stock market. Because if the stock market was the economy, Kamala Harris would be cackling her way through the White House, and Tiananmen Tim would be, you know, skipping his way down the West Wing and doing his Rockettes impression down the West Wing, swinging his legs and swinging his hands and swinging all his other body parts as well, probably, down the West Wing. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Let's go to Mike. He is in Leawood. What's up, Mike? You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete. Great show this morning. I couldn't agree more with what you've said about conservatives, and I would say their skepticism as far as whether or not this is a socialist policy on the part of the right. I couldn't agree more with you. Being in Main Street, I have a perspective on these tariffs. I talked to a lot of people over the weekend, and one of the things I never got an answer for is why is it that Taiwan, Japan, EU, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, you name it, Canada, Mexico, for decades, why can they have a policy that includes tariffs? And yet as soon as we impose a policy with tariffs reciprocating, that all of a sudden our economy, we're going to lose jobs. All of a sudden it's going to be detrimental to our economy when every country out there has shown that no, it's not detrimental to your economy. Otherwise, they would have got rid of their policies. I mean, it's common sense to think about they've been doing it for decades, and it hasn't been detrimental to Japan. It hasn't been detrimental to Taiwan, hasn't been detrimental to Mexico. So as soon as we do it, the naysayers, the skeptics, I think they need to be measured in how they go about this. And I think it's more about a little bit of hyperbole than anything on the left and in the legacy media to say, look, these tariffs are going to be detrimental when in fact, no. Let's go ahead and use the playbook that the world has been using against us for about 4 decades.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's worth a shot. That's where I'm at right now with it, Mike.
Right.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. And listen, you look at it too from the big picture perspective. Is it a negotiating play to get people to the table? It appears that it is. And look at this. Look at this. The Dow, the S&P, and the NASDAQ have all turned green in the last few minutes. Dow is now up 500 points. It opened up down 1,500. We have seen a 2,000-point swing in the Dow in the last half hour. NASDAQ's up 500. NASDAQ was down 600. NASDAQ was down 4.5%. It's now up 3%. This all happening in the last 20 minutes or so.
Since Charlie
Yes.
was on the air here. Right. He got off the phone and got busy.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about a swing. Now, I'm not like sitting here saying, yeah, the markets are. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying this is right now a roller coaster. It is a gamble what is happening right now at this moment. And you cannot use the market today, last week, tomorrow, next week as an indicator at this point in time as to what all this is going to mean for the broader economy moving forward over the next year, 5 years, or 10 years. Dow is now up 800 points. It's up 200 points since it said it was up 600 points 45 seconds ago. I don't know what's going on. I'm just saying it is wild what is happening, and we're 45, 50 minutes into trading today. Holy cow. All right, now we're back in the red on the stock, so I don't know what's going on here. It has been insane. We're 53, 54 minutes into trading. It's wild right now what's happening. So the reason that stocks turned green momentarily about 10, 15 minutes ago is that it came out that Trump is considering pausing all tariffs except for China for 90 days to work on negotiations. So then things swung up to the green. Now they are back down into the red. I mean, this is a freaking roller coaster. Just listen. If you're going to have some fun trading this, know what you're doing. I'll just leave it at that. If not, follow Mark's parlays. You got like a casual parlay, Mark, maybe for tonight for Houston, Florida?
Yeah, I can get us one later.
Okay. That would be nice to end the show. All right. This
might be safer than the market.
This is crazy what's going on right now. All right. CNN package over the weekend on Doge cuts in Kansas City. Mayor Lucas, of course, made himself available for this. I know that's going to be a shocker to you.
Talk about a bombshell.
Here's the 3-minute package from CNN talking about Doge's impact on the Kansas City economy. More fear-mongering, as you would expect.
Than 1,000 miles from Washington, D.C., the impact of Doge is hitting the heartland. In Kansas City, the federal government is the largest employer, a growing presence in recent years. In Trump's first term, the Department of Agriculture relocated 2 divisions to the area to save money and move closer to farmers. Now, USDA is among the many agencies scaling back here. All told, job cuts are expected to be in the thousands.
But I'll be honest, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the city. It's going to hurt the people a lot. It's going to hurt their families. And it's going to hurt a lot of secondary businesses.
Kansas City.
So that was Mayor Lucas there. It's going to hurt the people, the city, their families, and secondary businesses. I'm writing all this down here on my notepad, which is nothing but my own scribble that only I could read. Mark and John couldn't read this chicken scratch if their life depended on it, and that's okay. So once again, here we are. Now, we were told weeks ago when IRS cuts were coming to Kansas City that we were basically all going to die because people were going to get laid off from the IRS. Our taxes We're not going to be refunded on time. Maybe we wouldn't be able to actually even file our taxes. Who knew what was going to happen? I guess we moved past that crisis and we've manufactured a different crisis. Now, listen, if somebody loses their job, I get it. They get impacted. But the notion that Kansas City cannot survive without federal government jobs, I think that's actually an insult to Kansas City. This city is great. It's our home. And it's not great because of 30,000 federal jobs. I'm not saying those people or those jobs hurt this city, but it's not what makes us great. See, the insinuation here is that we can't survive without the government in this town or, frankly, in this country is the broader conversation that's being had right now. That's all BS. This country did not become the greatest country in the history of mankind because of the government, because of bureaucrats, because of the growth of government. It became great because we led the way, and we have for 250 years in innovation and in hard work and in being the land of opportunity and in being a place where you can rise up the economic ladder no matter where you start. That's why America's great. That's why Kansas City is great. Not because of these made-up, ridiculous, I don't want Mark to have to hit the dump button here, so I'm going to temper myself. Bizarre accusations that if we lose any government workers, Kansas City goes down the drain. It's complete and utter nonsense. It's also a narrative that whether it's CNN or leadership wants to desperately pursue in the name of everything Trump does is bad. That's the name of the game here. And it's very clear what's going on.